Hey, today we are diving into stepping into a new reality and what it means to allow ourselves to step into embodying a new version of ourselves. Because as we become aware of our vibration and that our reality is a reflection of our own internal world and our own inner conversation that we have about ourselves, we start to understand that the transformation that we're going through is happening on a deep level of identity and a deep level of inner alchemy and a deep level of working through patterns that may have limited us and held us back from truly giving ourselves the permission to become who we want to be. And that's why the first thing we're diving into is questioning our identity. All right, asking yourself, who am I? Who am I identifying as? Who is this I am identifying as in any given moment? Because the more that we become aware of that, our awareness is like a conduit. It's like the thing that holds the space for the transformation to happen. Because as we start asking ourselves where that identity is coming from, what story is that coming from, it starts to be able to unravel the layers of being able to kind of look at what we were embodying and what assumptions and what beliefs we held. Because our beliefs create our reality, and until we question them, they just remain lodged in the subconscious and automatically play out. So a really powerful way that I'm finding in doing that is really paying attention to your inner dialogue. Really paying attention to the stories that we hold about ourselves. See, for me, for a long time, I can see that there was a part of me that held back from truly sharing my voice in the world because I had a belief that other people couldn't understand me. And because I wasn't good enough, I wasn't perfect enough. And so it created this perfectionism, where I also, I went on some really powerful travels and had some deep journeys into myself. And I realized that in that process, that your voice is your medicine. And that by allowing myself to be at wherever I was in that process, even now I'm going through a huge transition coming and moving back to Sedona. And I've been in California for like 6 months. And it's like, I can see lots of parallels to my past life now coming up to be like integrated into learning those lessons of being like, seeing the places where I held back from shining my light, to be able to really step into this version of myself where I'm really showing up and sharing my gifts, and I'm more connected to the community. See, stories like that can also play out in the ways that we hold back from really fully expressing our light, and I can even see that in childhood, how I learned that pattern of basically dimming my light because I didn't want to, in a way, take attention away from other people because I had deep wounds of abandonment. So that created a story that, like, if I shine really bright, then it's gonna overwhelm other people, or it's gonna somehow diminish other people's light. But it's not true when you go in and really question those beliefs. What's that saying? I know it's kind of cheesy, but it's true. It's like one candle can light 1,000 candles and never be diminished. It's like that kind of thing, is that you actually spark other people's light by shining your own light. And I know it sounds kind of simplistic, but it really is. It's just like the first step is questioning that identity and being like, now what's the identity of who I'm stepping into? Inspired, passionate, thriving, successful, connected. Like looking at those core values and even just connecting, setting the intention, connecting into infinite intelligence, going deeper within your consciousness and meditating into a place of stillness and opening into receiving mode to be able to get the downloads and connect into that vision for your life, and then connecting to that version of you, right? Now identifying those feeling states so you know what it feels like to step into that version of you. And I've been feeling that as I've been doing these practices every single day, is like I'm feeling myself like as I'm coming through these meditations, it's like I'm feeling it in my body. I'm like grounding more into it. I'm stepping more into my power. I'm like giving myself more permission to become that. And that happens through awareness, right? Awareness is like the medium. Awareness is like the first step in all the transformation and all the healing that we go through and all the growth that we go through. It's like the modalities are the means, or the secondary to just having awareness and being able to develop our awareness in the moment of being like, okay, wow, this is coming up. I'm feeling these patterns of the past. And what medicine does that have for me? And being able to feel that and fully welcome it and embrace it in the moment. Because what happens is when we make those things wrong, we create like a feedback loop of resistance. Because whatever you react to is just going to continue to bring you more of that. So if it's something negative that's happening or coming up, by continuing an unconscious reaction towards it is just going to continue your focus to bring you more of it. In a way, it's like you're saying yes to that thing by rejecting it. But when you embrace it and you like feel it, you feel through it, and like the healing is the feeling is the healing, and it's like through that clearing and through connecting into the breath, right? And doing these practices of cultivating our life force and being able to connect to that higher vision, we start to like also work through our emotions. We start to feel our emotions more deeply. We start to meditate to feel more deeply, rather than to try to escape always to these higher states, which is kind of ironic when you think about how it's like just trying to seek that high state in a way will then get you into these lower vibrational states for longer, because it's like you're rejecting a part of yourself. It's not okay to feel that. It's not okay to, but when you allow yourself to like kind of move through these layers, and that's where I feel that this like somatic healing and this embodiment work meets this like law of assumption and attraction work. Because then you're actually allowing yourself to like move between these versions. You're like allowing yourself to bridge belief. So even if you can't believe yourself into saying, you know, I am this abundant, super successful, like whatever the affirmation is, or I am a millionaire. And if you can't believe that and you can't feel that, every time it's like you're just gonna reactivate the feeling that you don't have that. And then the more that you try to force those, it's like, that's what I'm finding is like the more you try to like force anything, it just creates more resistance. So, you know, being able to go in and clear and bridge those beliefs and be like, what if I was able to be successful doing what I love? What would it feel like? Asking the universe to give you a sneak peek. What would it be like? What would it feel like? Even just asking it that way allows you to start to kind of bridge that. And then also as you go in and as you clear and you look at these deeper stories, bringing them into awareness and being able to let go of these subconscious programs, these background stories that are running, telling you that you'll never amount to anything. I have voices like that come up too, like it, feeling like, you know, I'm a failure. But it's like, as I meet those aspects of myself and I love them, they don't have power over me. You know, the fear can also show you what you want to move towards. And then as you start to shift in through that, it's like this transmuting of that energy starts to clear up your bandwidth. And that's why I also feel for the stepping into a new reality, embracing the contrast. and the shadow. I feel like contrast and shadow are two different ways of saying the same thing. There's contrast in our experience. There's light and there's dark, there's positive and negative, there's up and there's down. And there's a wave between those. And when we recognize that we experience things that we don't want in our life, it creates contrast for us to discover what it is that we do, what our heart desires and what we truly want to align with. And that's embracing the shadow, is being able to go into those parts of ourselves that we shame. Just like recently, in making this life transition, I was having stuff coming up around shame of like having a constriction in my financial resources. And I was like, God, like, who am I to be coming on and talking about these videos, talking about manifestation? But I'm like, I don't, what other people think is none of my business. And also, like, I don't have to have everything figured out on my own, because it's like a form of futility to think that we can force things to happen, that we can alone try to make things happen, that we simply don't have the power to do. We can't see all of it at once. And that's why it's like having trust and faith in this process and connecting into infinite intelligence, because the universe has these cooperative forces and these answers to bring through for us when we start to allow that space. And that's when I embraced that part of myself, I was just like welcomed it. I was like, hey, I see you, I love you. And I'm just like, yes, it's okay. Like, yes, and stopped resisting it and just welcomed it in. It transmuted. And then it's like, then you don't have anything to be ashamed about. You like allow yourself to be exactly where you are. You don't have manifestation fever, because that's the other side of this, is that when we get into that mindset of like where we are isn't okay, it's again that thinking we have to have it all figured out, and then we're like in our heads. But when we bring it into the heart and into the body and come into the moment and like accept where we are and embrace where we are, and whatever is coming up is okay, then it naturally transmutes itself, frees up that space, frees up that energy, frees up our emotions, where then you're like, wow, really anything is possible. Like you really feel it genuinely, authentically. And another powerful practice in that space is that if you're not feeling that yet, like assuming that state of that new identity, maybe you're still bridging that belief, with affirmations, you can just meditate on a certain quality. Meditating on the word abundance. Abundance, what does it feel like to be abundant? What does abundance feel like? Abundance is the nature of the universe. You're not claiming anything about yourself that you don't believe, right? Abundance. There's nothing. There's no argument against just abundance. Health, healthy, love. What does it feel like? Because it's all about the feeling, anyways. And when you embrace that, it's funny because shame, they say, is one of the lowest vibrational emotions. But it's also like when you hit those deep depths, those rock bottoms, and you bring your awareness into it, and you bring your mindfulness into it, and you're just like, yeah, okay. It's like your roots go deeper. And then you have this, like, you start getting this foundation. I like see our body as like a tree, right? A tree of life. And it's like, as you're connecting into the earth and you're going into it, like think of the earth, the underworld, the down below the surface of what you can see in the earth, and like you're going down into the roots of it's this unknown, it's this subconscious, unconscious. We don't know what's there. We can either fear the unknown or we can embrace that feeling and discover more. And then it's like as we get more solid and we stabilize in that connection and that grounding, then we become stronger. We're able to cultivate our energy. And as we're also able to let go, we're able to release things that no longer serve. We're able to like cut these energetic ties to things that are not serving us. And then be able to kind of like seal our energy, be able to receive more of that healing energy. And it kind of like seals up these leaks in your energy, in your attention and in your field. And then you start to be able to like cultivate this trunk of the tree, like coming up through each of your energy centers, up through your central channel, up through your body. You literally become a bridge, right? You're like connecting, and then now you've got this foundation where you can expand. I call it grounded expansion. It's like you're rooting in and you're rising. And it's awareness, right? It's not just about like, fancy things you do with your limbs. And allowing yourself to embody it, right? Allowing yourself to embody it happens through awareness. No one else can give you the key to your own freedom when it's already there. It's already there. When you do this process, you just see it. And then you're just like, okay. We're going to be making a meditation about that. Because when you allow yourself to embody it, you're giving yourself permission. You're giving yourself permission to lean into the great mystery and to express yourself and to discover your gifts and what you're passionate about. That's what this space right here is for me. That's what this channel is. That's what this new phase of life is inviting me to. Is to be able to give myself permission. Because that's also like connecting to your own internal authority. And that's the power of like coming into this place of kind of taking things off the pedestal, other people off the pedestal. Even the people that you think are so great or aspire to be like. What would it be like if you really could be all the things, embody and become all the things that they inspire in you? Because I think that's really what it's about. I think that's really what we do for each other, is that we embody certain gifts and we embody certain medicine, and then we invite each other to discover those qualities that we admire in another, in ourselves. And so start looking at yourself as your own hero in your own story, as your own main character, living in your own reference point, living in your own reality, creating your own reality, and co-creating. It's like allowing yourself to embody it is also being open to what wants to come through in the moment, and taking that quote unquote vulnerable or sometimes like action that causes us to feel a little uncomfortable because we're kind of leaning into this new version of ourselves. But then when we allow ourselves to do it, then it's just amazing the magic that comes through, and you can just feel it. Like, can you feel my own energy? Like, can you feel your own energy? Because that's all that's really coming through this, right? It's an energy. And we're tapping into, well, what does it feel like for me to authentically express my gifts and to thrive and to allow myself. It's kind of like these seams between the realities. Kind of like that book, Reality Transurfing, but it's like you become aware that all these parallel realities are existing, and depending on your feeling state and who you assume yourself to be, right? Beliefs create reality. It's like your identity, right? And then you're like in that momentum, and then in the moment you're gonna get these synchronicities. It's like you can, as you start to learn this, you can do it in the moment, but it's like it also exists, when you're kind of like got the training wheels on and you're just starting to get into your daily morning meditation, and you're feeling it as you're drifting into sleep. You're making that bridge between the unconscious and conscious, then you're waking up in that vibration, and then you're stepping into it and things are starting to happen. But then it's like the practice that we're cultivating, it then starts to like come into our life, and we're like, oh wait, it's just like here in the moment. Like I can feel the energy. I'm walking down the street. Like, who's to say that your life isn't actually like literally a dream? Like literally, I mean, just like, it's like, wouldn't it constantly kind of be like a walking meditation where you're moving, you're like, okay, I'm shifting. When am I in this? It's like creating these somatic markers. It's like creating these points of like, what does it feel like when I'm identified? When does it feel like when my point of my awareness is in a certain point in the space? And when I'm feeling a certain way in my body, what emotions are coming up, what thoughts are coming up. Because when you make that shift on the core level, you're gonna have a different thoughts coming up. They're not just gonna be these junk thoughts. And this goes all the way back to shifting from consumer to creator. Because the less that because when you're just scrolling and you're just taking in all this stuff, or, back in the other realities too, where, all that programming and propaganda exists, it's like, all that takes up is your bandwidth, because those are the things that you're focusing on, is creating reality. But then you start getting into this more advanced space where it's like, okay, you can see the codes of the matrix. Like you can see which part of, okay, all right. And now you're starting to, like, you've put the majority of your energy towards creating and towards being mindful of your attention, and towards working through your energy, and towards healing, and towards just consciousness. Like, what is consciousness? Understanding consciousness. How does it work? What's the metaphysics? Let's go into it. Let's get curious. Allowing that inner child energy. That's the most cool thing about this whole awakening journey that happened for me, was that I actually became passionate about learning again, because it was actually something that had some kind of practical, real life. I could see it. I could try it out. It's just, and I still have that passion about it. I still am so curious. I'm so into it. And when you just like kind of get yourself into it, it's just like the universe responds, and all of these, your feeds and everything, things that starts coming to you, the information that starts coming to you, the people, the places, everything. It's going to continue to reinforce that, and it's going to create this foundation to support you stepping into who you want to be. And then suddenly that belief that, people don't love you, that you're not supported, as you transmute that, and then you step into this reality where you're like, I got soul tribe everywhere. Like really connecting with your, like connecting with your tribe, with like-minded people, and like now you're in these spaces that really like support you to express your gifts, and you start to actually, you like realize that you literally step into a reality where you are loved, where you are seen, where you are appreciated. Now, if that's not magic, I don't know what is. Like literally, you've shifted realities. That's like literally, I just think that's so cool. So allowing yourself to embody it, giving yourself the permission, that's taking back the pen, being able to rewrite your own story from the state of consciousness. Because now it's like, okay, we've integrated that, we've created space, and now it's like those affirmations going into that deep feeling space, being able to do it throughout your day, like creating that evening ritual, morning ritual. It just starts building that energy. Even like connecting with the land, connecting with these power spots, vortexes, places of healing and energy and community as well. You start to connect yourself into a reality that supports you to step into that version of yourself. And in giving yourself that permission, it's like self-sourcing that, because nobody else can really, people can say they give you permission, but really it's you that gives you the permission to be who you really want to be. And it's like when you embrace that, then you start getting that inspired action, right? And you start taking that, and that's that allowing. You start allowing that energy to come through, and you start taking those leaps into the unknown. What would it be like to put my pen to the paper right now? I'm feeling this coming through. What would it be like to put myself in front of a room of people and do some improv poetry? What would it be like to put out some kind of content about this? What would it be like to create anything? Like, what would it be like to, whatever that impulse is? Just throwing out some examples. It could be anything. But what would it be like to just follow those and trust as it comes up? And it's like the more that you trust, the more you're investing in yourself. That's like what confidence means. It's like you're investing that trust in yourself. And what you're getting is a reflection of other people. It's like, if you don't trust other people, or other people feel hesitant around you. That's what I noticed earlier. I had a little bit of that come up. I met somebody, and I found them attractive. And they were somebody I hadn't seen in a long time, and I felt this hesitance. And I'm like, oh, and then they kind of felt hesitant. And I was like, I wasn't just allowing myself to be like, oh, it's okay that I'm attracted to this person. Like, just being like, here I am. And because when I realized me having that hesitance was like me creating this and it's like, okay, coming in and actually trusting myself. And I noticed that when I shift into that place, it's like, I just have like really awesome interactions with people. And it's like, because it's a mirror. It's like making that shift and also being aware of it in the moment. Because as those reflections come up, it's like the most immediate way to be like, okay, I can see where that pattern comes from. I can love that, and I can also shift. And it becomes fun because now you're like kind of leaning into it. And then it's like you get to explore, like, what is it like to step into it? What is it like to move like it in that energy? And to allow it to come through. To step into a new reality. Because we're always getting back a reflection of what we're being and what we're embodying, what energy state, what state of consciousness. And the more aware that we can become of that, the more that we can make those shifts. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up. Leave a comment about what reality are you shifting into. And subscribe and hit the bell if you want to be notified of regular videos. And I will see you guys in the next portal.